strange encounters,
and the occasional technical mishap.
And there is always the technical mishap. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sportcat Show. We've got a great show lined up for you tonight. We've got a couple treats for you. First, in addition to my wonderful and beautiful co-host Harley, I have another co-host. You might recognize her, JM. I'm going to call her Jen because otherwise I'm going to screw this up. She's an author that's been on the show, and she said every now and then she'd like to come in and see what we do. And I was like, well, I don't even know what the hell we do. So welcome. Don't be nervous. You're just live in Australia. That's all. So thousands of people are listening. So let's see here. So our first guest tonight, as you all know, we have two guests. Liisa, well, she is an author, and I'm going to quiz her about this because I'm not exactly sure. I've never heard the term book coach. And she's written several novels, and she's also based out of Canada, so she's probably much colder than us here in the South. So let's bring her out. Liisa, hello and welcome.
Hi. Nice to see everyone.
Yeah, good. Oh, and before I forget, anybody listening on the radio, Dare Talk Radio, come over and find the Sportcat Show and jump in the chat here and make sure to ask any questions you have here. We have Chris here already in history. I don't know who history is, but please make sure to like and subscribe. She's obviously a fan of yours, Liisa. So good. So how are you, Liisa, first off?
I'm great. I want to say I have an Australian connection. My husband's family is from Perth, Australia. His mother and his dad lived in Perth. So shout out to all the Rellies over there. Beautiful country.
Yeah, that's actually where the home base for Radio X and Dare Talk Radio is, Perth.
Amazing. So, yeah, beautiful place. I've been.
And it's when we go live, I have to always look and see what time it is. I'm like, what time is it over there? So we're doing an afternoon show over there now for this. Well, I think it's like mid-morning. So, but amazing. So Liisa, tell us a little bit first off about yourself, and I'm going to quiz you about the book coach, and then I'm going to let Jen or JM and Harley jump in here too with some questions. They're my true book aficionados.
Awesome. So I'm an author, and I was previously a high school teacher. I taught English and creative writing and AP research, and then I left teaching to be a full-time a creative person, writing books and book coaching. So book coaching is a person who, well, if you think of any coach for any sport, right? You need somebody on your side who's helping you get through, learn new skills, improve, finish a project, whatever it is. So book coaches kind of do all of those things depending on where you are in your project. I work with individual authors as well as small group book coaching as in small, like, about 6 people, maybe 7 people at a time. And, it's everyone's just trying to get better at the craft and get their book done. And they just need those cheerleaders and people who have some skills to help them get to that place.
Like a life coach.
Yeah, it really is in some ways. For sure. I used to be, well, I still am, a rhythmic gymnastics coach since the time I was about 16. I coached gymnasts. And sometimes I think it's quite the same thing, right? You need to encourage them. You need to help them learn new skills, push forward, try new things, expand their ability. But you're really supporting them and helping them find their own way to do it. So it's not like you're, writing their book for them. They have to do that. They have to learn those skills. Just like the gymnast has to figure out how to move in a certain way, how to incorporate a piece of apparatus or whatever it is.
Do you love seeing like their eyes light up when you're like, wow, somebody believes in me?
Yeah, it's so good because I think we have this notion that authors work by themselves. Like we have that old image of, I don't know, somebody in an attic with a candle and writing with their quill pen or something. It's like a romantic version of this isolated and maybe tortured artist. But the truth is we all just need community. We need people to support us. We need people to listen to our ideas. I used to joke, I would go for a walk with my husband and I would talk about my story that I was working on and I'd tell him everything about it. And he'd nod and and it's not that he's not supportive, but he has no idea what I'm talking about or how to help me. And so now when you find that community, whether it's a friend who's writing or you take a class or you have a book coach or whatever it is, you really have somebody who understands what you're going through, that how difficult it can be and how hard it is to sit down to write and plot problems, all of those things. So
How many times can you say sit?
right, exactly. So I love it. It's so fun to see an author just find their own voice and get confidence in their storytelling. And it's just delightful. So it's such a pleasure. I mean, at the end of the day, what you kind of want from a writer is that they won't need you anymore, which is a little hard to stay in, in business, but it's kind of what you want, is to get them to a place where they feel really confident and they're able to keep working on their own. But actually, I often have a book coach myself. Like I have somebody that I work with when I'm working on a new project, and I can bounce ideas off of her, and I love a deadline. It's the best. I love a deadline. I love to sit down on a Zoom call with her, talk about what my ideas are. We kind of bounce back and forth, and then I'm ready to go and start drafting. So I do employ a book coach myself when I need one.
Well, I think even I've heard editors will also get people to edit their own work too. We need the sounding board. Otherwise it's very lonely and we get stuck in our heads. We got to share.
100%. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And the problem is we don't see our own work clearly when we've been doing revision after revision after revision. We need an editor. We need somebody else's fresh eyes to say like, oh, you said that a couple too many times, or like you went from here to here, but I don't know what's going on over there. So like we do need that at every stage of the process. So even if you're really experienced writer, that editor or that person at the other side is definitely going to help improve your manuscript. And that's what we all want, right? We just want to do our best and write the best book we can and give it out to the world.
Yeah. I wrote the first chapter of my book, and I just sent it to some friends. And Cheyenne, one of my other co-hosts, she sent a message back to me the next day, and she goes, "Do you know how to use quotation marks?"
Maybe not.
This is because Shangsky is not proud of me at this moment. My English.
So good. But it is true. You don't actually know what you don't know. Like I've been working with a group of writers over the fall session, and for 8 weeks we had a class, and they were actually quite experienced writers. They'd done they'd written a lot already. They had taken classes. They were really invested in their writing. Sometimes I get groups that are really new. They're just starting, but this group was really quite experienced, and I think they were surprised at the things that I brought forward that they hadn't heard before, or they didn't know, or just hadn't come across. It's not their fault. It's just, when you know, and you don't know that you don't know it until somebody points it out. So that's like you say, when this kind of spark in their eyes, I'm like, okay, good. You're taking something away from this that's going to be helpful for you.
Light bulb go off. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, everybody needs a cheerleader and a coach, and you're an accomplished novelist, writer. So how many books have you written?
How many have I written? So I have 3 books published. I have 2, one that's quote unquote done. It sort of, needs to get to the editor. I have one that is, I would say it needs a couple more revisions, but it's like the first draft is done and I have a little bit more to do. I just got the ARC, or the proof copy, for my first cozy mystery today in the mail. So that's very exciting. And today also, I just finished the first draft of the second cozy. So what is that now? 3, 4, 5, that's 7. Not all published yet, but the 2 cozies are coming out next year. And then the historical, I'm going to give some time between each of them. I don't want to put them out all at once. But yeah, every book is a new challenge. Every book has something you're exploring that is exciting, and there's a something new you have to learn and figure out. So I like that a lot. Just keep going.
Do you find that like each book has its own like mood? It almost takes on a life of its own.
Yeah, 100%. Especially like the difference between writing cozy mysteries versus historical fiction.
Mhm.
It's really night and day. So
Yes.
the historical requires so much research. And, I'll spend years doing research and I'll try to travel to the places that I write about
Yes.
and, read as much as I can and, watch anything that's out there, documentaries or films about that time period. So I really get intensely into the research and I really love it. But I find also the historical stuff is, it's so character driven. It's so about transformation and about the characters' inner lives, um, that it can sometimes get quite, I don't want to say dark isn't the right word, but intense, emotionally intense, and even for me. And writing the cozy mysteries, they're contemporary, so I don't have nearly as much research. I've created the village that the people live in. I've created the characters. I just feel like I know that place so well and all the folks in it. So now just finished that first draft of the second book, and that was so fun to return to that world because it was like, oh, I know where I am, and I know where like it was so joyful and full of energy, and it was so fun. So I love the historical, but I like the balance because different books have a different tone and a different
Mhm.
mood, and you as a writer, it's a different energy.
Do
So I like them both, but the reader will feel the energy is different for the different styles, I'm sure.
I know when people ask me, it's like, "Oh, which one's better? Which one of your books do you like better?" And I'm like, "That's like asking to choose between my children."
Which
You
kid,
know,
right?
they're part of you, and I resonate so much with what you said, like, that's like home. You return to your story, and it's just feels like home.
Yeah, it absolutely does. And for me, the historical fiction, I've been focused on writing about Finnish history. Like I'm looking like because I'm Canadian, but I'm connected to my Finnish heritage through my parents and through my community, which was a very Finnish community when I was growing up. And I just wanted to know more about the history of Finland and the Finns coming to Canada. And
Yes.
those stories are really universal, right? Like you can kind of say, okay, Ukrainian or Russian or whatever, and we all have sort of similar immigration stories.
Mhm.
But I loved finding out about those incidences because family members of mine have been involved in them in some way. So I'm not writing biography, but I'm like drawing on little parts of their lives. Like I stole
That's
so much
nice.
from my mom who lived in Wanup in a small farming community. I'm
Oh,
like, tell me more stories of the depression.
they
And I
always have
just like take
really
them.
good stories too, don't they? Like their
Absolutely.
experiences. I don't know about you, but I'm first generation Canadian as well.
Yes.
And
Where is your family from?
well, my family's from the US, but they before that they came from Scotland, Ireland area.
Yes, right? There's so many great stories, right? Like it's just that connection and that draw you have to a different place through your family members, through your ancestors. And
Mhm.
I think that makes it so fascinating
Mhm.
just to know. And I think that's important for people to ask questions about where they're from and what that was like. And
Mhm.
I think it's there's so many stories and we don't ask them, they disappear. So
Yes, yes. Yeah,
With
that's so sad. I wish
technology,
they could write them down, but some people, they just go through life and you just don't have time and stuff, but
yeah,
then they get people like you come along and write them down
that's
and
right.
you make a story and adventure out of it, so it's
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
with the technology, you'd think that we would use it more, but actually, I think it sends us the other way to where we communicate less.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I think that's true. I mean, I think we're all guilty of it. We always blame the kids being on their phones or on their laptops or whatever. And I'm like, well, I think we're all the same. The technology is so amazing, and we're kind of addicted to it. And yes, it's great for research. Like this is
Mhm.
the best time for historical writers for research in terms of finding information. It's so much faster than I was doing 12 years ago. But on the other hand, communicating with other people and making those connections and asking questions and having elder folks tell you stories, like which was probably part of everyday life at one time. Family members would tell stories to each other, right? That was
Mhm.
entertainment, or they
See,
would read,
television.
right? Yeah, right. And so things like that are disappearing unless we're kind of like conscious of asking. And
Mhm.
sometimes folks who have been through very difficult times don't want to talk about what happened. That
Yes.
was the case for my dad. And, it took, like, he didn't tell me his story until he was 84 years old. But when he finally decided to tell me his story, he was a Finnish merchant marine sailor that was on a ship called the Vapu, and 3 ships with 90 sailors, Finnish sailors, were arrested and sent to Stutthof concentration camp. 16 years old, So he was 84 when he was finally ready and able to tell me his story. But that's because we gave him time and space to listen and let him tell his story, which took months and months and months for him to tell me everything that happened. And even then, I don't think he told me everything. I think he still suppressed some of his memories, or
Fair enough.
there are some things you just don't talk about, right?
Yeah. It's
Right.
a trauma. Yeah, you don't
Yeah,
tend to. Yeah, you
exactly.
need to hide some things and stuff, but
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard to tell your kids certain things too.
Yeah,
yes.
I think that was like, I'm the youngest of 4. I'm the only girl. I'm very sensitive. My dad knows that. And when we started this process, he told me all about his childhood as a little kid in Finland, and then right up to the winter war between Russia and Finland. He was like 10, I guess. And then he talked about coming to Canada in 1951 and working all over Canada. And I thought, oh, he's not even going to go into that concentration camp. He's not going to show me anything about what happened there. And so I just had to be really patient. And I showed up every week on a Sunday afternoon, week after week after week. And he told me his stories and I wrote them down. Sometimes he'd repeat them. That was fine. Sometimes new details. That was fine. But I think you're right. I think he was testing the waters with me too. Like, how was I going to react to what he was telling me? And over time, he was able to start telling me the more difficult things. So I think it was for him, for comfort too, but also because he was conscious of me. And I sat with my laptop and and typing and my eyes on the screen, because I'd had that fear that if I look at him, then I'm going to just break down. But he, so I think that was the laptop was a little bit of a distance between us, to kind of like, I had a job to do. I was listening, I was writing. I might ask him a question, I was typing. And then I would go home in the car to my kids, and I would let myself have a cry. And that was when I cried. So it was kind of like we had this routine every Sunday afternoon.
Yeah. So there's these
important.
emotions that you put into your, into your works that came from the heart. You were connected to it. That's awesome.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, before I wrote that book, I knew he was going to tell me some really difficult things. So I did so much research just to understand the concentration camps, to understand what happened in that time period. Everything I could find about the Finnish sailors, which there wasn't a ton about yet. I have since found a little bit more. But it was like I always talk about it as being putting on armor, like, so that I would know everything that he could possibly tell me, so it wouldn't be so devastating. And I think that was helpful, because then again, it was a little bit of distancing from, like, this is like when he's talking, that's my dad telling me these terrible things. And so understanding everything that could have happened helped me, because I was able to, okay, right, I'm prepared for this. I'm ready for this. So it's quite a journey.
And then you get to honor his life and his sacrifice journey.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And one of the most powerful things that happened. So he died in 2018 at the age of 90. And in I want to say 2022. No, maybe around 2020, 22. The publisher created an audiobook of Surviving Stutthof. And the narrator is my son, Kieran Jensen, who's an actor. And so I went to go listen to him recording in the studio one day. So here's my words being spoken by my son, all about his grandfather. Like, that was just like,
that's so precious.
I know. I couldn't believe it. It was like just this moment. I was like chills,
It was meant to be.
Yeah.
It was meant to be.
It was really beautiful. It was just
full circle, right?
Ask for anything better. Yeah, full circle for sure. And my son was, I'm going to say he was just a little bit older than my father was when he went through it. So it was, I had been thinking about my own kids when I was writing this book, because they were around that age of the time my dad was in that concentration camp. And, 16, you're just still a kid. You have your whole life ahead of you. It's crazy.
How did your son, knowing that this was his family, how did he feel about that?
Yeah, well, he's an interesting guy because he's a really talented actor. Of course, Mom's going to say that, but he just is. Mama Bear says so. He's an amazing actor, and he's incredibly introverted. Like I think our whole family is in some way. I'm quite introverted too. But he's quite like my mom. He keeps his everything close to his chest. I'm much more emotional. I'm much more chatterbox. He's quite quiet and he keeps everything close. But I knew how seriously he was taking this project, and he worked on it. And when I went to see him do this, I could see him. He was so intense about delivering it right. And so we never really spoke about how he felt about doing it. I knew he wanted to do it. Like when I suggested, like the publisher asked if you want to be the narrator, because she knew him as an actor, and it just all made sense. And he didn't divulge too much in terms of an emotional reaction, but like I just know that he was extremely proud to be asked, and that honoring his grandfather in that way was really beautiful. So yeah,
it is amazing. It really is.
It really is.
Yeah, when we were talking about the technology, you brought it full circle.
Yeah,
my wife is from a Jewish Czech background, I think.
Yeah,
and her dad didn't talk about a lot of the time in the military.
yeah.
And this is a weird story, so bear with me here. Her sister gets a strange email from a complete stranger. It says, from overseas, over near Germany. It says, I found something that belongs to you. And of course, she thinks, oh, it's a spam. And so she sends it to my wife, Mrs. Sportcat. And she asked me, she goes, well, look into this. And so I went and I looked, and I was like, you need to contact that guy. I'm not going to tell you anything to contact him. And so she's like, okay. So there was obviously a language thing. We had used the Google Translate. He is a metal detector, and his country is right on, and don't ask me where, right on the border of Germany. Her father was in the army and a gunner in a big plane, and they were going on a suicide mission. He apparently ditched his ID because if he had been caught with his looks and his last name, that would have been it. And so it was kind of like she had never heard this, and we started putting the pieces with time together and using the internet. And she's like, oh my God. And so the guy asks, he's like, can I please keep these? These are now personal to me. He's got them framed on his wall. And she's like, yes, by all means. I've got another set of his dog. It was his dog tags. I'm sorry.
Yes, yeah.
And she's like, no, I've got a set. She goes, but if something happens to you, send them to my son. And so they agreed to that. But it was such a story, like you said, had never talked about it. And then it started putting the pieces together. He's going on a suicide mission. If he gets caught with his last name and with his looks, he's going straight to the camp, especially being in the military. And luckily, apparently, everything worked out. But historically, we found out. But it was so strange to catch a story that way because no one had talked about it.
That's right. Amazing.
I told her, I said, you need to write about this.
Yeah.
I said, take your father, because you don't know what happened, but put yourself in him. Because what he had to be going through to think, okay, I'm doing this for my country, but if I get caught, they're going to think I'm with them.
Scary.
This is the wrong way, but you know what I mean.
That's wild.
So I love the technology though, in a good way. I'm kind of concerned about AI a little bit. it's going to be our AI overlord one day. We're going to
It amazes me that sometimes, the best stories out there are things that actually really happened.
Yeah, that's funny because my dad would say, like, I loved fiction, and I still love fiction. I write fiction, and, I just, devour it. And he would say, and he never, ever read fiction. And he says, well, because real life is crazier than anything you will read in a book. And he is right. Like there are some things that if you were to put it in a novel, readers would be like, nah, that would never happen. But like, because it's real life, like it's too out there.
But I think even like high fiction writers or fantasy writers and stuff, you're still drawing from real life events.
Oh, yeah.
Real emotions and real traumas and real things. I mean, they may not have wings,
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, it's very true. I think we're always drawing on what we know and what we observe and people we've seen. Like it's not that you're necessarily creating a character that's based on someone in particular, but it's composite of all kinds of different people you've met and seen and observed. And I think we're always trying to work through issues that we have or questions we have, or they come out as themes. I write a lot about grief and loss because that's been a theme in my life. So I kind of explore it in different ways through my fiction. And not that it's therapy exactly, but it's a way of kind of like encountering it again and thinking about it and seeing how this works and how do people respond to it. So yeah, I think fiction can be great for the reader to explore their own lives kind of vicariously through the characters, and for writers as well to experiment with okay, what if I put this character in this situation? What happens then?
Yeah, well, I used to do that. That's what I started.
Yeah, exactly. It's so fun.
In your latest book, Like Water for Weary Souls, how much of that it comes from the Great Depression? How much of that is from your family background?
Yeah. So actually, like I did a lot of research for that one too. So I set it in a northern Ontario mining town of Sudbury, which is where I'm from. So that was fun because I really could look. I actually went to the library and found maps from the 30s, and I was able to really see, okay, what was Sudbury like then? It had just become incorporated as a city in 1930. So the timing was perfect. And then my mom's experiences growing up. She was born in 33, a little bit later, but she grew up in a farming community just outside of Sudbury called Wanup. And I've been to her little farm that she grew up on, and she would tell me all kinds of stories about what it was like to live there. And it was a very Finnish community as well. So I just took all these little bits and bobs of things I knew and people I knew and what was going on, and put it into this Depression era story about these two Finnish domestic workers. And I came across this great book. I always talk about it. It's called Defiant Sisters. And it's a researcher from I want to say Ryerson. It could have been University of Toronto. I don't know. I don't remember at the moment, but her name is Valtbo Lindstrom. And she wrote about Finnish immigrants in Canada for, like 100 years or something, probably longer. And I got to the section of the 1930s, and she was talking about Sudbury, and she was talking about Finnish domestic workers. And I'm like, that's interesting. And then she started talking about all the other things women did to earn a living during the Depression, such as running boarding houses. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. I knew that. Running brothels. That is not something my parents told me about. And bootleggers, all the women who were bootleggers. I'm like, okay, I think we have some stories here. And that's where the spark of the idea came from. I'm like, yeah, you know what? People are just trying to survive. Everyone wants a better future. Everybody wants something more for their families. These young girls come from a farming community into the city thinking they can have a better life. And it turns into a bit of a mystery because one of the girls dies. Her body is found in Nolin Creek, and the other sister's like, "What?" Like the police say it's an accident. She's like, "No, it's not an accident. She would never have crossed this creek. There's no way." And she's determined to find out what happened to her sister. So it's historical fiction, but there's this murder mystery at the center of it. And so, no, the characters aren't people I know, but there's all these little infusions of stories I've read and people who existed and real history. And that's my, sweet spot is to find like, okay, how can I incorporate what I already know and people like behavior more than actual people and choices they make and make them complicated, because we can really judge those women. We can say, well, why do they whatever, but I wanted them to be really relatable and be like, okay, they were making choices. They were trying their best. They were trying to stay alive, and we may not agree with their choices, but you can understand why they were making those choices.
Yeah, when
we'll
there's
head
no
out.
other options and stuff, and it comes down to survival. There's a
Yeah,
lot of things that people would do that they normally, that, if you're not in that situation, you wouldn't understand.
exactly. Yeah, and I feel like there's so often when we're reading historical fiction, um, we can connect it to what's happening today, right? There
Mhm.
are lots of people suffering. There's lots of people who are in situations that are not ideal, that they're not welcome. They're struggling financially. There's, so many issues going on. And I love that historical fiction shines a light on those issues by looking at the past. And
Mhm.
maybe you're also then considering what's going on in the present. And I don't know. It doesn't make a difference. I'm not sure, but I hope so. I hope people start to see things differently.
Yeah. Well, I think the past ends up repeating itself too. So,
Yes.
it's sort of becomes current events eventually. But
Yeah.
the human aspect of it that you're writing is always going to be the same.
Yeah.
There's going to be people that it's going to connect to.
Yes. 100%. That's the thing, right? We are like, okay, despite our technology, every generation has new technologies, something new, like, I don't know, cars versus having, wagons and horses or whatever it is. There's always something new that's going to challenge us and we have to change the way we live. But at the heart of it, we're the same.
Yeah.
Like we love our families. We're just trying to keep care of our children, our parents, whatever the situation is. We're human beings, and we see the interactions and the relationships repeat in different scenarios because life is changing all around us and we can't stop that from happening. But yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
So I know you said that you didn't write any characters based on anybody that you knew, but do you find that when you're writing, you can't help but put aspects of yourself into each character so that they may not be you, but they may be parts of you?
Oh, that's such a good question. And I want to say no, but I think I'd be lying. I'm pretty sure like we just can't help it, right? I think
Mhm.
and it's not even that we're putting ourselves into the character as much as kind of exploring what a character might do. Like, if I was this kind of person, what might I choose to do?
Mhm.
How might I see the world in a different way? And it's sort of like you're kind of entering their skin so that you could see the world differently. And it's like walking around in their skin for a
Yeah.
little while. And that's really cool. So I think it is kind of a part of ourselves that we want to, delve into. But then we're really lucky because we can close it down and walk away and be like, yeah, I would never do that. But also,
I always used to say that writing satisfies my God complex.
that's right.
I'm the
That's good.
ultimate in control, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's nothing more powerful than creating whole worlds.
Mhm.
And but like I have to say, like, I don't know if you find the same. I like to plan. I'm sort of a cross between a plotter and a pantser. And I'd like to know where the story is kind of headed, especially, with these historical pieces, you're doing so much research.
Mhm.
But don't you find that as you're writing, the characters are like, no, I'm not doing that.
Oh,
I'm doing
all the
this.
time. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they do have their own life, their own
Yeah.
energy. They're like, yeah, you think we're going there? No,
Yeah.
we're doing
I have
this.
to, like, reel them in
Yeah.
sometimes. Although
Yeah.
when
Or
you
follow them.
yeah, if you're not plotting too solidly, do you find that sometimes if you just you let your characters go, it'll take you somewhere and you're just like,
Yeah.
"Wow, how did I think of that?"
Yeah.
Sometimes it'll either be
Absolutely.
there or you'll be questioning your sanity and like, "Why did I do that? That cannot."
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% because I usually have like a decent plan in the sense that I know where I'm headed. I know the major things that are going to happen, and I leave lots of blanks, thinking, okay, I don't really know how we're getting to that point, but I know they need to get from here to here, and this has to happen. So I kind of let that pantser plot of me out when I'm doing that, and that's when the most interesting things happen. The
Mhm.
things that I didn't expect, that I hadn't thought of before, and like, whoa, why are they doing that? And then I will follow them. And if you, like you say, if they're going really off field and it's just not going to work, I kind of have to rein them back in. But a lot of times I'm like, let's just see where this goes. And
Oh,
can
yes.
I make it work? And that's so fun because really rich, interesting things can happen out of that. So
Yeah.
my suggestion is, yeah, have a plan, but be flexible with it because the new things come up. Your unconscious is always working on your story in the back of your mind when you're not thinking about it. So like let yourself go there and see what
Yeah.
happens.
Let your mind
Yeah.
wander.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like how you said that. Your unconscious is always working.
Mhm.
And you're right. So when you're doing that, do you just basically sit at the keyboard and just free flow?
Yeah, 100%. So I usually know, okay, I know what's going to happen. Like this major thing needs to happen this chapter before I get to the next thing. And then, but I don't always know. Like, I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen. And I just go for it. I kind of almost treat it like, especially in a first draft, like free writing, that
Mhm.
kind of free, some people call it free fall or, just where you just go at it and just see what happens. And that's when some magic happens because you're not thinking too hard about this must have like next. It's just like writing. So do I
Mhm.
keep all of that writing? Probably no. Um, and when you go back to revise after first draft, you're going to shape and form it anyways, and you're going to get rid of things. But in that first draft moment, it's fine. Like just get
Yeah.
it on the page. And it's so surprising to me. Sometimes I look back at that, really rough work and think, where did that come from? Like, did that just come like from on high? Because I don't know. I wasn't planning that. It just happened. So that can be very powerful. But it can be frustrating too if you kind of sit there and you're writing, you're thinking, well, where is this going? I don't even know.
Yeah, that's a lot of words sometimes to like let them wander.
Yes.
And that's what I was going to ask. Like in the movies and TV shows, they have like outtakes. Do you save those to use for later storylines, like when you're going through
Yeah.
your editing?
I know.
So, okay, that's a good question because so this is what I do. I do save them. I have a document called, I don't know, like deleted scenes, and I copy them over, and I even say which chapter they're from because I might change my mind, and I almost never do. But there was one situation I can tell you. I was working on with a developmental editor before my book Sister's Winter War was being published, and we were kind of close to the end of the process, and he said, I really think that you need a different opening chapter. Like, I think you kind of need something like this at the beginning. He said, and he just kind of described it. He said, like, at the end, you have her walking. I don't want to give it away, but she's in the forest, and she goes, you could kind of really bookend it by I'm like, are you kidding me? I have that scene. I pulled that scene. I had it in full. It was like maybe a 3-page scene. And I'm like, is this what you mean? And he's like, yeah, that's it. So like, that's the opening. And I had it as the opening for ages and decided, oh no, I should start at a different place. But I didn't delete it because you just might change your mind. And when he said that, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, as if you're describing the thing I wrote, like it is meant to be.
You have that
So,
creative instinct, but you second guess
yes.
yourself. It's
Yeah,
like
you second guess.
after a test.
Yeah, it's going back to the book coach or the editor or whoever, like having somebody else's eyes on your work, they see it differently. And
Yeah.
I was going back and forth on that chapter. I had it there for so long. And then I finally was like, oh, I think it needs to start here where there's a little bit more action. And he's like, no, you need to start it here. Like, oh, good. I kind of felt so relieved because he, verified that my instinct was right about that. But I had not listened to myself.
Listen to yourself there. That's your gut feeling. So
That's right. Yeah. So important for writers, I think. And if you think about book coaches too, um, think that's something we want writers to develop is
That-
not that somebody's coming and telling you what you have to do. Like there's not really any right or wrong answer. It's just choices. And then how do you make that choice work in the best way that it can? Right? Like we can choose, I could have chosen not to put that scene in and just made that first chapter the way I had it, the best first chapter I could make it. No one else would have known. It's just me, right? It's just choices. But it's helping writers to feel confident and trust that instinct too, right? Not telling them, oh, you must and you should change it and this, but kind of like exploring together what the possibilities are.
Oh,
And that can be so fun.
yes. Well, and I think a lot of times, like we say, we're our own or worst critic, but we're also our own greatest artist at the same time. So
Yeah.
it's a balancing act between those two.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. The other thing I often think about is, and I talk to my writers about, is that we think it's ourselves and the manuscript, right? That's the relationship. And it is. But then there's also the third party that we don't always think about till later, and that's the reader. And we really need the reader to be part of that process. So, you often hear writers, especially the starting out, who say things like, I'm just writing for myself. Okay.
Yeah.
You can just write for yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. Or I'm just writing for my family. Absolutely. Go do it. It's great. But the minute you're saying, I'm writing so that somebody else will read this, like I would like a reader to read this, then now you've expanded your little circle of support. And you need to think about your manuscript as being something that will be in somebody else's hands. And so there are expectations. Like if you're going to write, I don't know, a thriller, you now need to hit some marks that thrillers hit, because the reader of a thriller is expecting that. If you're writing, like there's all kinds of experimental literature too. So you can experiment and try things too. You'll find readers. I think everyone will find their readers somewhere. But there are certain genres that if you're going to write them, readers have high expectations for certain things happening. And we have to honor that. Like if we're going to say, hey, all you thriller readers, read my thriller. And then they read it and they're like, no, what is this? This is not a thriller. This is something else. That's fine. It can be something else, but don't market it as a thriller. It's just disappointing for everybody.
Yes. Yeah. It's like, you grab a can of, my grandpa brought me out a can in his hand and it was open and I thought it was Coke or Pepsi or whatever. And I took a swig and it was beer and you did not expect that. And it was very jarring,
Yes.
you expect it to be something and it's not, it's very jarring.
I recently read a book. I'm not going to say the name, but she's a very well-known Canadian author. And it was a bit of a mystery, but the back cover copy, the jacket copy, described it as a really, I think it was like thriller, suspense, all kinds of, like it really was gripping.
Yes.
And I read the book and I thought, this is a beautiful book, but that's the wrong jacket copy. Like this is not the story I'm reading. And I wasn't angry about it. It was a good book, but it was like, I felt like duped in a way. Like the marketing promo people were saying it's this, and that's not what it is.
Yeah.
So like, if you to find the right readers, you need to be honest about what your book is about. Like, don't pretend it's something that it's not, So I just thought, well, she didn't write that. The marketing department wrote that. And she's doing quite well. So she's not worried about it either, I guess.
You've written several different genres. Is there one that you'd really like, a different genre you'd like to dip your toe in that you haven't done yet?
This is like maybe the Aries in me. I love trying all kinds of things and just feeling like, look at that bright, shiny thing. I should try that. So the cozy mysteries are my latest diving into something new, which is I've just had so much fun with. But it made me have some confidence that I could learn a new genre. So that in the back of my mind, down the road, I would love to try something else. I'm a really big fan of sci-fi, and I've never write sci-fi, but I soak it up. So that's kind of like, could I don't know. Like, I once thought I would write, in fact, before the cozies, I thought, I'm going to write a romance series. And then I was like, but I don't really read romance. So that's when I was like, but like cozy mysteries, I love thrillers. So I think that's the thing. I'm going to have to play with what genre I love, because I think you need to be invested in it yourself, or you're just pretending, and then your reader is like, I don't get it. So I'm very conscious of, like, if I'm going to do something, I want to do it well. I want to, honor it. Like, I don't want to be pretending to do something because it's for whatever reason. I think it has to be authentic. So I'm not sure what's next, but I definitely have a couple of these historical novels I need to finish, and this cozy mystery series. So that'll keep me busy for a while. Then I'll have to think about the next thing.
There's a whole landscape out there.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, I know you probably saw in that email. There's one question we always ask every one of our guests. Yes. Have you ever had any type of paranormal experience, seen a Bigfoot, Nessie, anything?
Yeah. Well, okay, I can tell you. Can I tell you two of those stories?
You absolutely can.
Yeah. So the first one is actually related to my dad. And they're both related to my dad. I just realized that. So like I mentioned, he died when he was 90 in 2018 and much beloved and missed. And his lucky number is 14. And after he died, I would start to see 14 everywhere. If I woke up in the morning, it was 4:14. I'd look at the clock, 3:14, 5:14, like all day long, every day. And I was like, this is weird. The ending of my cell phone number is 14. I moved house after he died. I moved house 144. My box number from postal box number has a 14 in it. It just kept showing up. And I told my mom about that, and she reminded me that's your dad's number. Like that was his number, his lucky number for his whole life. And that's been, since 2018. And I still see 14 everywhere I go. Maybe because I'm conscious of it, but also like, why am I waking up in the morning at 4:14? Why? And
So
I just say, hi, Dad.
You were saying these 14 numbers before you found out it was your dad's favorite number.
Yeah. I don't know.
Amazing.
Yeah, no, she told me. Then the other strange thing is kind of something that happened to my mom and then happened to me. So just after he died, she started getting phone calls and she'd answer them and there was nobody there. And one day I was in she lives in a old age retirement home, and the phone rang, but it wasn't her normal phone, like landline ring. And I said, have you changed your ringer? Because I thought she doesn't know how to change her ringer. There's no way. And she's like, no. And she didn't say anything. Okay. And she goes, well, actually, I've been getting calls and with this ringtone. But then during the day, normally it's just the regular ringtone, but this ringtone and there's no one there. And it often happens when a family member is here or somebody Dad knew really well. And she goes, it's Dad. And I thought, okay, sure. And then a couple, like, I forget, maybe a month or two after he died, I got a phone call really early in the morning, like 4 in the morning. Again, I've never received a call at that time of day. And I answered and there was no one there. And I told my husband about my mom's story. And I said, like, what's going on? And so he did that reverse lookup to see who the number was. Like it could have been a whatever, fake number. And there was no number. Huh. So, hi, Dad. And those phone calls continued for several months until they started to peter away. But my mom was convinced he's just checking in. And I thought, oh, that's so nice. Yeah. Not a scary story. It's kind of a nice, warm story, I think.
Not all paranormal stories are weird.
Sometimes they're comforting, I think,
Mm-hmm.
And like I say, when I see 14, it's no longer surprising to me. It's just like, yep, hi, Dad. And I feel good about it. It's this little connection. And
don't they call that angel numbers?
Yeah, I've heard that too. Angel numbers. Yeah. So they're looking out for you, I guess, which I love that if that's the case.
I know my grandfather passed away in 2019, right before the whole pandemic thing started going on. And he always smelled like sawdust.
Oh, yeah.
And for several months after he passed, I'd be walking through my house and I'm like, someone smells like sawdust.
Yes.
And the same thing happened. My uncle passed away a couple years ago, and he was a big time smoker, and he always smelled like cigarette smoke, right?
Yes.
And none of us in our house smoke, but yeah, again, every now and then I get this whiff of like cigarette smoke, and it's just I honestly believe they can reach out to you.
I think so. Yeah. I think it's possible, and I love the idea that you're like, for both times it's sense, like that somehow for whatever reason. That's how they know they can contact you is through sense. Yeah. And for me, it was like the visual aspect of the number, and my mom missed phone calls, like which was really like kind of in your face. Like I was like, who is this call from? There's no one there.
And then that wasn't working, and they tried this.
Yeah, it's so incredible. Well, I tell my children are grown, 22 and 25. I tell my kids, listen, when I'm dead, I'm gonna contact you. And my daughter's like, well, how will we know it's you? Because she's like just rolling her eyes. And I'm like, I'm gonna say believe. And she goes, oh, Mom, that's just too typical. And And I said, okay, I'm going to say pickle sandwich, or I'm going to show you and so she's like, okay. So now that's the problem. Like, I don't know what happens when I die. How am I going to show her pickle sandwiches? I don't know, but that's my challenge.
A challenge in the afterlife. I like
That's
that.
right. You need a challenge in the afterlife. So make her a believer.
Yeah. Well, I interviewed a lady that her husband, her fiance was a police officer, and he was shot in the line of duty.
Ooh.
And she was getting her hair cut, and they had they had a satellite radio station playing, and the police radio at that moment that he was shot, she didn't know, cut into the intercom and said, whatever her name is, Shelly, I love you, I miss you. And she's like, what the hell is this? And then it cut out. And so obviously they came to her door and told her, and she's like, I knew.
She already knew.
And she told them, and they went back and pulled the 911, and it wasn't there. And she's like, everybody in the salon heard it.
Yeah.
And so, I think it is possible. So whatever way they know they can get a message to you.
Yeah,
for
sure.
Do.
Well, and my thought is, I mean, I'm no expert, but I think we're made of energy. Everything's made of energy. Energy can't be destroyed, but energy can affect other energy. So it kind of makes sense that there's a way of affecting light or sound or radios or whatever. Like, I just think there's a possibility of that. I mean, I don't know what to believe actually, but I can't, it's hard to deny when people are like, okay, this is what happened to me.
Mhm.
So, it's
Oh yeah.
fascinating.
Some of the stories I've heard, I'm like, okay, that you couldn't make that up. Like with her, and she was young. She was very young. So, well, we
amazing.
only want to keep you for about an hour, and we're getting close. I want to make sure everybody knows how they can find you if they want to reach out to you and use you as a book coach, and how they can find your material, your books as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me at my website, liisakovalabookcoach.com. So Lisa is Liisa because I spell it the Finnish way. And also I'm on Substack. So I have it's Lisa I'm just trying to remember. Women Writing, Liisa Kovala Women Writing on Substack.com. So, but if you just go Substack, Liisa Kovala, you'll find it. It's called Women Writing. And I have a newsletter there and a podcast called Women Writing as well that folks can check out. And they can also get a free download called the Sisu Writing Method, Ancient Finnish Wisdom for Modern Writers. If they're writers and just need to learn a bit how to use Sisu, which is strength, courage, determination to get their work done, that hopefully can be very helpful. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Shoot me the Substack information. I'll put it in the show notes.
Perfect. I will do that.
Yeah, I like to make sure that it probably won't happen tonight, get it in the notes, but I'll get it in there in the next 24 hours. I like to do that so that people can reach out and get in touch, because you've given your time to us. I mean, not aside from a great story, you're here to sell your product, and we want to make sure that you're representative, especially with our audience in Australia, because they play this in repeat on other stations over there.
Oh,
So
right.
it may be 5 o'clock next Wednesday and they hear this. So we want to make sure that they know.
Good. Amazing.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about technology. I never envisioned this little tiny show being international. And I always joke, I'm a guy with a microphone with a Southern accent. I have more fans in Australia than I do in the US. I don't understand, but don't argue with it. So
that's awesome.
So you've got to promise me something. You said earlier you're working on the other books.
Mm-hmm.
When you're finished, you need to come back over here and talk to us.
I would love this. This is so fun. I really enjoyed it. I'd love to come back.
Yeah.
It's great chatting with you folks.
Jen, do you have any questions for her before we cut her out of here?
No, I was checking out your newest book out there, and I'm thinking, I have not read a lot of mystery, but I think I want to read this one.
Great. Good. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, this was such a fun conversation. I really appreciate it.
It was.
So good. Yeah.
It did. It was, and it went too quick. I was sitting here looking at
I know.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I know. I didn't realize even how fast it had gone. Wow.
But that's the sign of a great storyteller. So,
Mhm.
You pulled
Or
this
good
in.
questions.
Hey,
A good
I'm
conversation.
teamwork, so
Well, thank you.
Lisa, have a great night. But
Thank
like I
you.
said, please come back and see us. And
Love
you and
to.
JM are both authors, so you got a
Yeah,
lot.
amazing.
I'm just
Yeah.
a reader, and I'm a hacker.
There's no such thing as just. There wouldn't be authors without readers. So thank you for being a reader
Yes.
and for
I
being a
guess
great
you're not-
host.
You know, you're not an author until you publish. Before that, you're just a just. So you
That's very true. That's very true. So
Amazing.
all right.
Well, happy holidays, everybody. That was
yes,
so
ma'am.
fun.
You too.
All right.
Yeah. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Merry
And
Happy
we
New
will
Year.
see you.
2026 is going to be good.
Oh yes, it's an even number. It has to be good.
Yeah, it'll be awesome. All right. Good night, everyone. Bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. That was great. And it did. It went by much quicker.
It did.
I
It went
looked
by
down and I
so
was like,
fast.
so well, Jen, let me push a button here for the radio station so they can they can edit in what they need to. And then we'll be right back because our next guest is hidden behind us here. So
Broadcasting across Australia on Dare Media Group radio stations, this is the Sportcat Show, uncovering secret chapters, strange encounters,
and the occasional technical mishap.
lots of technical mishaps. Well, welcome back to hour 2 of the Sportcat Show, formerly known as the Paranormal Guys. We've taken a detour, and we like to think now we're an entertainment paranormal show. So yeah, our co-host tonight is J.M. Shaw. She's an author, and we've had 2 authors on tonight. Brad is our next author. He's also a Canadian. And he says he's Dr. Brad. So I'm going to be intimidated by him. But he has written kind of a cyberpunk book that I'm very intrigued by. So let me bring him out here and let him tell us about it so I don't butcher it there. Hey, Brad, how are you? Welcome to the show.
There we go. Hey, how are you doing?
Doing good, sir. Doing good.
I can't believe it's such a rookie mistake now. So many years after COVID, leaving my mute button on.
You
Have I done this before?
And
You should have pants on. Well, we hope.
Yeah. I promise nothing. All right.
Okay. Well, so it's we're on late. We're
Right.
on late.
Yeah. Awesome.
So welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You were a druggie in another life.
Yeah. Used to be a druggie. I used to make drugs for a living because somebody's got
That's a
to.
weird.
Yeah. They don't make themselves after careful observation. I've noticed that. No, I used to work. Don't call the cops. I used to work in the biotech industry. I used to make legal drugs for that's. Yeah.
Nothing
Don't
wrong with
dox me.
mushrooms. Come on now. So.
Yeah.
once upon a time, I used to shoot people with ionizing radiation. So
Oh, fantastic. Were you an evil scientist or a good scientist? That's the question.
I worked in the dark,
Okay.
chemicals and X-rays, and so maybe I was an evil scientist. I don't know.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah. My past life, I like to drive fast and cut the clothes off people. So.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah.
I was a paramedic. I did it legally. So.
Yeah.
Oh.
That's a funny way. I've never heard the career of paramedic be described that way, but that actually sounds staggeringly accurate. I love it.
Well, it is. Yeah, you get to drive fast. I cut the clothes off people. It's sometimes there's surprises. Let me tell you. So
Yeah.
Always wear matching underwear. Mom was right.
Always. Yeah. Well, always wear underwear. Step
then-
1: wear underwear. Yeah.
That's true. So, what got you to writing science fiction?
Yeah. Oh, fun question. I've always written. So yeah, I write science fiction. I've always written ever since I was a young kid. Whenever I write long form stories like novels, they just come out as science fiction, fantasy. It's funny. Whenever I write short stories, they're always fantasy, but whenever I write long stuff, it's always sci-fi. So if there's any, I don't know if anybody has psychology as a background, you can try to figure that one out. But
You haven't written them long enough to become a sci-fi.
yeah, That's right. Give it time. They'll be sci-fi eventually. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They said we'd have flying cars, and they were wrong. So
yeah.
It hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
And I've never actually. Now that I think of it, I don't know why that is. There's just whenever I think of a story, I think of I always place it in the future. For there we go. I'll have to reflect on that sometime later tonight. What's going on in that head of mine?
Well, we do have self-driving cars in Texas.
I know. So that's the thing. Like it's getting challenging to write science fiction these days because like all the old tropes they like exist now. Like oh man, what's left? I was at another talk with another author, and it was about AI, and it's kind of gotten to the point where if you write science fiction, like you have to have a strategy to deal with AI, and it's one of two strategies. One is like that humanity's evolved and they've just throttled AI, so it's not that superhuman, so humans can actually still have a story, or it's like all transhumanist. Everybody's sort of got godlike powers and stuff like that. Like you can't write Star Trek anymore. You have to figure out what am I going to do about this like elephant in the room, this godlike elephant in the room.
Yeah, you have to up the ante now. So
yeah. Gotta give him a role and a name and a soul.
Yeah.
Maybe some history and a motivation. Siblings, that'll be good.
Yeah, sibling AIs. This is my brother. This is my brother, the godlike intelligence.
Brother Daryl, my other brother Daryl.
Yeah. It's a throwback.
I just hate myself there.
Yeah, you did. I laughed at it, so I did it myself too. Yeah,
I'm with you. Awesome.
Yeah. So you guys said you're from Australia, and like none of you have Australian accents. What gives? What's going on here?
Well, no, our main radio station is Dare Talk Radio in Australia. I'm actually in the deep south. I'm in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Knoxville, okay.
Yeah,
and I'm right next door, I guess, to you. I'm in southern Alberta.
I grew up in southern Alberta, just Calgary, just north of Calgary, Airdrie.
Yep, absolutely.
Oh yeah, there we go.
Pretty good guess.
Nobody knows what we're talking about.
Had to pull up maps.
Yeah, air what? Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's very cool.
I do a news show every day, and when I try and tell some weather or news story, I have to actually look up about Australia. I have to look up the pronunciation, and then I'm like, well, this is going to come off with a southern draw, so it's not going to matter how badly I screw up. That's
fantastic. Yeah, I like your accent. That's good. I like the southern draw. Yeah.
Thank you. As I was a flight medic for a while, and we would go into Canada so frequently. And my partner, the nurse, she would always say, the nurses are going to have a thing for you. I'm like, what? And she's like, just wait. And we'd go in and we'd have to give a patient report to the nurses that were taking the patient. And I would give the report and the nurses would go, can you keep talking? I'm like, oh, what? And that's over here going, told you.
Who is this dreamboat talking? Yeah.
I have an uncle who lives in Tennessee. And so, I didn't even think about that because I just think of you sounding like your accent sounds just like my uncle. So it didn't even occur to me that you have an accent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I know. But
until somebody points it out, you don't really notice it,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you think we have an accent?
Well, you do slightly.
Do we? What is our accent? I was like, what does our accent sound like to you? Does it sound cool or does it sound like?
Oh no, it's really cool. Do you? I don't. This will really date you. Bob and Doug McKenzie. Do you know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Take off,
that's the first thing I think of. And I love this song this time of year. That's the first thing I think of. So I don't know if it's bad or good, but.
So way back when I did used to work in the biotech industry, we had these. We worked with these American consultants, and I don't. Somehow I said something and I ended it with a. Which is what, and they flipped out. They're like, "You said it," and it was like, I know they won the jackpot or something.
I was
like money traded hands. They were betting on. I was like, I didn't even notice. Really?
I know. Well, I know you're Canadian. You're Canadian when you bump into a clothing rack and you turn around and apologize to it.
Yeah. I'm sorry about that.
Oops. So if you're south, you shoot it. So
yeah. Cultural differences.
Yeah.
Well, you say yeah, and I say y'all.
Y'all.
Like, what the hell did you just say?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the difference between the borders is on one side it's yeah, no. On the other side it's no, yeah.
No, yeah. Yeah, I know. Which one is Canadian? Now I'm confused
Yeah,
now.
no. It
Yeah, I
depends
know.
what you're trying to say, though.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Even in the deep south, there are things that you can still learn. I learned that there's a difference between yender and yonder. One is a right and one is a left. I had no
Seriously?
idea. Yes, I was in ambulance, and I say, you turn down yonder, and I'm like, okay, man, is that a right or a left? She goes, duh, it's a right. I'm like, okay.
Really?
And then she goes up, and you go up yender by the chicken coop, and I'm like, okay, is that a right again? She's like, it's a yender, it's a left, and I'm like,
Do they teach you this thing in like paramedic driving courses?
No, they do not.
I've never heard of that. Yonder. I've never heard of
I've
that.
heard yonder before, but I think that's
I heard
like
yonder.
yonder down that
It's
way.
like over there.
Yeah, it's like straight.
yonder.
Keep on going yonder. I dropped a very Canadian word on a podcast that I was on. I said, we're out there shoveling. I've got my mitts, my coat, my toque, and they're like, "What the heck's a toque?"
No way. Nobody knows what a toque is?
Yeah, I guess they don't. They didn't.
The thing that keeps your head warm.
Yeah, exactly. Don't freeze your hair.
Yeah. Even us in the South, I knew what that was. We call it.
I'm sure there are people that know who it was, but they didn't know.
That's funny. They probably call it a beanie. Is that what they call it nowadays?
Knit cap, maybe?
Cap? Yeah,
knit cap, I think. Yeah. My son moved to Vermont, right on the opposite side of Canada, and he's been up there now for about 2 years. And I went up to visit him during the winter, which I don't know how you all do it. I want snow, but Jesus Christ, that's a lot of snow.
It's old. It does get old fast.
And well, that was the whole reason he moved up there. His wife, they're both from the South, and she's like, I want to see snow. And next thing I know, he's in Vermont. And I'm like, he saw snow. And he's got on his big fur hat and these big mitts, and I'm like, what? Where in the hell do you get this stuff? They don't sell this at Rural King.
I remember one day opening my door to go out the door, and I guess it had snowed a bit last night. And I opened the door, and it's up to my waist, and it's got the imprint of my door on there. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going.
That's bonkers. Where was that? Where was that?
Prairie.
Grand Prairie. Oh, that's even worse.
Northern Alberta. Good old Northern Alberta.
Yeah.
He called me right after they moved there, and he said they're expecting a little snow. And being in the South, I was like, oh, it's a couple inches. I mean, I spent a lot of time growing up in Washington D.C., so I'm familiar with snow.
Right.
He goes, no, they're saying about 2 feet, and I'm like, that's a little snow.
That's a lot of snow.
That would be a little for here. It would be melted in a few days when a Chinook blows in.
Yeah,
I've learned. And then he he had to get a snowblower, which was totally new, because I'd be like, well, can't you just shovel it? And he's like, no, you can't. There's too much.
So I grew up in Calgary, so just south of Airdrie. Nobody knows where these cities are. They're small little. Calgary's the big city in Alberta. So I grew up in Calgary, and then I moved to Edmonton. And again, nobody knows where Edmonton is. It's much north of. It's about 3 hours north of Calgary, driving on the freeway. And I moved there in February, which was a mistake. So I moved to Edmonton in February. Yeah, so that's a mistake. It was like minus 30 Celsius, and like waist high snow. And I remember driving into Edmonton, and there's like these banks of snow, and there's these like little flags that stick out of it. You know what we're talking.
Yep.
And I was like, I had never seen them. I was like, why are there stupid little flags sticking out of there? And finally I asked somebody, and they're like, oh, that's where the fire hydrants are, and they have the flags. So I'm like, why am I moving to a place where they need flags and fire hydrants in the wintertime?
They put them on the for the snow plows so they don't hit the curbs too.
Yeah, smart.
When they hit the curbs, that sounds really loud.
Yeah, I saw it. I learned that, and I'm like, I've made a huge mistake. What have I done?
Well, the one I didn't know is everybody at night, their windshield wipers were up.
Yes.
Like
they're waving. They don't lean to their window.
It's like, you got to do that. What?
Yeah.
Well, I got you. I was a flight medic, and we flew into Red Deer, Manitoba.
Oh.
And it was -50. And we had a rookie co-pilot, and when we landed, he touched down a little too hard and blew the nitrogen out of our shocks. It was a very rough landing. So we were stranded up there for a while because apparently there's no Learjet mechanics in Red Deer, Manitoba, and a blizzard came in. and it's negative 50. And here this southern guy is, I used to smoke cigars. I'm like, I'm going to go out and have a cigar. Hell with this. Yeah, that didn't work out too well.
Yeah, I know. I've seen a lot of horror movies. I know how that ends. That's
very wrong.
yeah, I know.
I don't know about you, Brad, but the coldest I've ever seen is minus 63 Celsius.
Where was that? That's bonkers.
That was in way up in the north near Grimshaw, Manning area, way up north in the middle of nowhere, northern Alberta.
You know, I got to be honest. I find like after minus 25, it doesn't matter.
No,
after minus 25 Celsius,
miserable.
like you're going to die in minutes. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it's horrible. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I can tell everybody I was in negative 50 with a wind. I don't know what the wind chill was. And then a week later, I was in Kandahar and it was 120.
That's a big swing. Was your body happy with that?
2 days ago here, it was plus 10, and now it's minus 30 almost with the wind. Obviously, not without the wind. But it's just crazy.
We've had a cold snap in the south, but it was I call it false winter. It's gone. It'll be gone. It'll be back. We'll be up in warm temperatures in the next week. So
that's the best kind of winter.
Santa will need a 4-wheeler, not a sled.
Yeah. Hauling the kids to school on a sled.
When I was growing up in Washington, D.C., we only had like a couple blizzards, and they were a couple feet. So I remember them, but once we moved further south, it didn't ever snow. So my kids didn't know what it was till they went up there, and he got a shock. So, and ironically enough, he's looking to move back to the south. So,
yeah, go figure. So you used to be a paramedic. What yes. Are you retired now? Are you still doing that on the side?
I would love to, but no. I was taken out of service by Pitbull. I was attacked on duty by Pitbull, and after the city spent $750,000 to repair my hand and left arm, they said no, we don't really need you anymore. So they sent me out to pasture.
Brutal. Oh, that's. Yeah. That's a story. I don't have any stories.
I was going to say that. There's a story there.
Yeah.
It took a lot of therapy to get through it. So
yeah, I'll bet.
Yeah, because it's like a light switch. One day you're a paramedic, where every third day, because we work 24/48, you live a superhero life, your total different life.
Yeah.
And then you turn that off and you come back and I'm just regular Glenn. And then every third day, so it's like I was bipolar to start with because I had these two personalities, and now with this switch, it's just totally gone. So it was a big adjustment, but I'm happy. Actually, a funny story. That is the reason I'm doing this. My wife was like, "Well, I'm tired of you being here, and you like to talk, and you've never met a stranger." She's like, "Why don't you start a show?" And I'm like, "I don't know about this."
She's like, "You like to talk, and I don't want you to talk to me."
Exactly. And she never listens to my shows.
Which townspeople you could talk to who would listen to you. Got it.
Yeah.
I got new friends. So
yeah.
Well, do you find that as an author? Do your family members read your stuff?
Some do. My mom does. My mom always does. My wife does too. It's so the stuff I write, like sci-fi, isn't my wife's genre. So you know what? She says she doesn't like sci-fi, but she reads my stories and she likes my stories. And whenever I get her to see a sci-fi show, she likes the sci-fi show. Like I think she likes sci-fi, but she doesn't want to. She doesn't want to. She doesn't think she likes science fiction, but I think she does like science fiction. I don't know. But sometimes that's the hard part about writing is that you're like, oh, all my friends and family should read it, but then not all your friends and family read it, or they'll read the first one and then you're like, oh.
Yeah, they'll just decorate their shelves with it, and then you're like, but you want to read it.
You should read it. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, someday.
I had to threaten my husband with bodily harm to get him to read my books.
Did you? Yeah. And did that work? Yeah.
He's read my books now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be fair, I've never seen her husband, so she may have him in a closet.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I have a brown belt in karate. Don't tell him.
Oh, that's
cool. Now we know why you never see your husband.
Yeah.
He's a kept man. Well, in your story, there's like a conflict going on, like a war going on, a struggle.
Yeah.
Where do you pull that from? Because I mean,
All right.
we live in peaceful times.
Yeah, sure thing. Sure thing. Yeah. So my latest book, my most recent book, is called Ashme's Song. Oh, look at that. Actually, I just have one like line right here. This is it. So yeah, what's that?
That's the only one.
There we go. The premise of it in a nutshell is that it is a sci-fi. It takes place in the far future on another planet, on another world. But Ashme, the main character, the society she lives in, the nation she lives in, is devolving into civil war, and she's kind of forced to choose between looking after her family and fighting for her country, and hijinks ensue from there. Things roll out from there. And yeah, so you're asking, where do I pull from for that? I don't know if it's interesting. Initially, so the seed of this idea for this book came back in like 2016. It takes me a long time to write books. I'm a slow writer. But yeah, in 2016, during the Syrian refugee crisis, civil war broke out in Syria. Refugees spread all over the world, mostly into Europe and all the, Middle East and so on. And I remember there was news articles at the time where they'd have pictures of these, chains of refugees. And there's certain political commentators. They're like, look at those, look at all the men in these refugee files. They shouldn't be coming to our country. They should be staying back in their own country and fighting for their country, right? And I remember thinking to myself, like, in a time of a war, like, what is the right thing? Should you stay and fight for your country, or should you take your family and get the heck out of there, right? What does it actually mean to be a hero? Is a hero somebody who fights for their country? Is a hero somebody who gets their family and just gets them to safety? Is the answer yes to both of those questions? So yeah, I wanted to write a story that kind of explored that tension. And so yeah, the main character kind of faces that tension of, she has certain gifts, certain science fiction gifts that allow her to be sort of a meaningful contributor to fighting for her country. But she also has a brother that has special needs and, needs somebody to look after him. That kind of falls to her, so she kind of has that tension as well. So yeah, the story kind of explores that choice that she faces throughout.
Interesting.
Was it more difficult since she was a woman to explore that character? Because that's something we haven't really talked about in modern society. Is are the women going to fight? Are they going to be drafted?
And I liked, I don't know, like you see a lot of tropes, and I want to, I don't know, I don't want to play to stereotype. I don't want to play to tropes. I want to kind of I want to make something that's original, that's familiar but original. So yeah, typically you see, when you're thinking of hey, fighting for your country, you're usually thinking it's a man, fighting for their country. This character is a woman. Women are traditionally, sort of viewed as the caretakers, the ones that look after their family, and she's trying to sort of buck against that. There's another character in the story. Her cousin is a male, and he's kind of we should get out of here and get her family safe. So yeah, I kind of like playing with opposition. So in the story, there's her. She actually wants to fight wants to stay and fight for her country, playing against type. Her cousin wants to get the whole family and get out of there. Again, sort of maybe playing against type, playing against the stereotypes, and they're kind of opposites from each other. So yeah, I don't know. I think a good way to explore tension is to play against type, and that's kind of how you can really, I think, reveal the tension is when you sort of have that, when you sort of play against stereotype or play against type and have opposites that kind of pull against each other.
From a woman's perspective, I don't think there would be any difference if you're fighting for your family or you're fighting for your country. You're going to fight.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think it totally makes sense to me. Yeah.
And I think part of what makes that question interesting, at least to me, is that you do need people to fight for your country. You do need people who are willing to fight for what they believe is right and stuff like that, right? But you also need people to take care of their family. It's one of those. I feel like it's one of those choices where you can make a really compelling argument for either either answer is a right answer, and it's kind of everybody kind of
it's more of an individual answer.
Yeah.
Not every woman would want to take up arms and fight, and not every man would want to do that too.
I know, right? Yeah. Exactly. So
I agree.
I kind of had fun with that.
So I had a curiosity question because I know it's been asked to me. As a female author, my main character is a male. So as a male author, was there any reason, or what was the that you designed a female character?
Yeah. That's a good question. I'm just trying to think, like, what was I thinking? I like to, I don't know, I like to do different things every story. My first story kind of had a male character, so this story I wanted to do something different. But I did, I think one of the main drivers in choosing that character to be a female character was that, again, like the classic stereotype. Like if I made him, if I made the main character a male, and the male had a dependent family member, I know it plays into this trope of, like, the male is the fighter, and like the
I can see
rescue the heroine, and I'm like, let's that trope's been done to death. Let's do something.
For sure.
Yeah. So that was probably my main driver there with that. Yeah.
When she asked that, I thought, I'm trying to call myself a closet novelist. I've got the first chapter, rough draft, and my main character's female. She's president of the United States, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I never thought about that. Why did I do that? It just made sense for that person, for the story I want to tell. So
I know when the question was asked to me, my short answer was my character's traipsing through the woods and days on end. I don't want to deal with menstrual cycles, but that was a joking answer. Like, for me, and maybe you can sympathize, is that the character just sort of developed.
Yeah,
that was the character that developed for that role.
Yeah. I think that happens, like, you develop the character that the story needs, and it kinda, oftentimes it'll happen organically. Sometimes, like, it's not necessarily like it's not like you flip a coin and you see something. It's kind of like, just the story just, it has, I know, for me, like when you're sitting down and writing, it just feels like this character should be this way, and
exactly. And yours fit into that role very well.
Sometimes as I'm writing the first draft, sometimes, like, I'll flip the genders, like, halfway through, just to kind of see, and, like, it doesn't fit like that, or, like, let's run with this, right? It does fit like that. So sometimes I'll play, like, I know, the stories you need to tell kind of just need different people.
Because I know I've written other stories too where it's been female authors, and it's just female protagonists. Because I'm an author.
You are a female author.
Where it's just that was the character that developed for the role. That was the character that needed to be for the role.
Yeah.
I find it fascinating, and you've already kind of let the cat out of the bag here. You seem to let your characters develop their own thing and lead you through the story.
A little bit, yeah. Like so I've wrestled with that over a number of different books. So for any of your audience who is interested in how the stories get written, there's like two schools of thought. There's, the architects and the gardeners, they call them. Like, the architect, like, plans everything to death. The gardener's like, well, let's just write and see where this takes me. And I've done both. And I find neither extreme works well for me. I have like a rough outline. I don't plan it I plan sort of the major plot points. And then I just, let's see how we get to those major plot points. So I kind of have just a very loose scaffolding, and then I kind of just see where things are.
Character freedom to just sort of take on a life of their own.
Yeah. And open myself to serendipity. One of the rules that I have for myself is that, and this also, so you sort of let things roll, let things go with serendipity. Allow yourself serendipity. One of the rules I have is, like, whatever the character tries, it always fails. So, and then then you're like, how do I get myself out of this? And then they have to try something else. So I always have this rule, and I think that makes exciting stories where, characters are competent. So it's not like they're incompetent and stupid and they're just screwing up all the time. Like, you want to have like competent characters, intelligent, making good choices, but they're just outclassed by an even more competent or even more powerful, bad guy. And so yeah, every time they try something, doesn't fail. Oh, I'm going to pick this lock, and I broke it. Oh crap! Now how am I gonna get in?
Very unfortunate.
Right, and then okay, now we got to right. So yeah, so I kind of follow those rules. Let the characters kind of take me there. Whatever they try fails, and now I got to try to figure out a way around it to get to that plot point. And yeah.
You ever find that your characters figure their way out when you didn't know how to get them out of a situation?
Have they done that? Probably, yeah. Sometimes, yeah, you have these because that's the advantage of being the writer, is like sometimes you can just sit and just spend days trying to think of something, and then also like, oh yeah, that's what this guy would do, or that's what this person would do. Sometimes that's actually a good way to do it. What would this person like? Don't try to solve it, but just answer the question. What would this person do? What's given their attitude? How would they respond to this? And then see where that takes you.
Maybe try and fail.
When you were talking about that, the first thing that came to my mind is I bet you watched a lot of cartoons as a kid, because you just described Wile E. Coyote.
Oh, I know, right? Just keeps trying.
That's right.
You know,
get the damn Roadrunner.
God, yeah. Well, we're totally dating ourselves here, aren't we? Wile E. Coyote cartoons on Saturday morning. Yeah. A show that really, I think, showed that to me as an author. You remember that show, Mr. Robot, a couple years ago? So I watched that series. I really enjoyed that series. I loved the series, and I remember trying to figure out what is that's making the show so compelling? Like, why am I always on the edge of my seat? And that's when you pay attention to that show. That's exactly what the writers do. Like the heroes are like super intelligent. They're super competent, but everything they do doesn't work because the bad guys are like 3 steps ahead of them, and so they're always outclassed. And it was like the whole season is like them failing, but pivot. And then by the end of the season, they finally succeed. Yay, they finally succeed. But then you find out like, oh, there's all these unintended consequences that make it even worse in season 2, right? So like that whole, it's like whatever it is, 4 or 5 years, that whole, it's like just failing their way to success. Well, yeah, failing their way to success. Or
I like that. That's a good saying.
So yeah. So that's kind of that inspired me. I was like, that's a compelling show. That's I'm gonna adopt that rule.
So do you have fun getting inside of your villains' heads?
Yeah. I enjoy all my characters. But yeah, with the what I try to do with the villains is I think my villains are very understandable, right? And I think that's kind of what makes a good villain. Like, it's not just the mustache twirling, I'm evil, but it's like they're actually trying to achieve something, and you can actually like, yeah, what that person's trying to achieve is actually kind of good. Like in the story Ashme's song, the main baddie is probably this very powerful politician, but when you kind of look at what they're doing and why they're doing it, like they're trying to keep their country safe, and you're like, well, that who can fault somebody for that? The way they're going about it sort of crosses a lot of lines. So they cross a lot of lines in pursuit of what they're trying to do, but what the goal that they're trying to achieve is like, yeah, that's reasonable. That's not an evil motivation. The way that they're going about it might not be considered good, but they've kind of justified it as the ends justify the means in their mind. So yeah, so I enjoy that as well. Like I enjoy trying to figure out, why would a bad person actually do this? Because bad people think that they're the good guy. So what's going, like, why does that person think that they're the hero of the story? I find that kind of fun.
I always like to think that the bad guys were not born bad guys. Something in their life shifted in that direction, right?
Yeah, something happened to you, man. What happened to you? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Give them a cool
Something I
backstory.
learned as a paramedic is everybody can teach you something. Everyone you come in contact can teach you something. It might not be something you want to do or a character you like, but you can learn something.
You can learn something from them, yeah.
Yeah.
And you know that, like, the exercise of like looking at somebody you disagree with and then trying to figure out why they do that. I don't know. I think that's a good experience, right? Like, you don't have to agree with them. Just because you understand somebody doesn't mean you agree with them. But like taking that time and like, how do I write this person so that they're very believable, so that, you know, like I'm describing them the way that they would describe themselves, and yet most people looking at the story would view them as being beyond the pale, right? I don't know. I think it's to your point. Everybody can teach you something. I mean, being able to see another person's perspective, even though you don't agree with it, even though you might still be enemies, like being able to see that other perspective, I think there's power in that, and it's a good exercise.
So what did you have more fun writing, as your protagonist or your villains?
You know what? I like to, I want them all to be fun. Oftentimes people, you know, in stories, in a lot of shows, the villains are always the more interesting people, right? Because they're the ones that are actually doing stuff, whereas the hero's like, being a victim. I do try to, I try to make all my characters fun. So if I'm not enjoying writing a character, then I'm like, okay, something's wrong with this character. I gotta make this person fun for me somehow. So I enjoy them both. I enjoy them both. Yeah, there you go. I know maybe that's not the typical answer, but yeah.
No.
If they're not fun, I'm gonna change them until they are fun. That's what I do. Yeah.
Makes sense.
And back to your point, I would always teach my paramedic and EMT students, even if a person, they may be a drug addict, they may have an alcoholic problem, they may be a bad person, they still get sick, and that's our job, is to treat them. We don't judge you, we treat you. I don't, and I've met a lot of bad people, trust me, but you treat them. They're human.
When I was so I used to be a lifeguard, and I don't know if they teach you this in the States, but the mantra that they teach sort of like in first aid courses and in lifeguard courses is that whomsoever you see in distress, recognize within them a fellow human being, right? So it's like you don't pick and choose, I'm going to save this person, but screw that guy. It's like whoever they are, just they're a fellow human being. Not my place to judge. I'm here to help. Yeah.
I think that allows us to put ourselves in another person's shoes.
Yeah. Which I think we should do. I think we should be doing more of that these days. It doesn't seem like that's happening all that much anymore, but or ever. I don't know, but I think we can solve a lot of problems.
Digital worlds nowadays.
Yeah. Echo chambers.
There's a lot of I out there. Everybody's I. It's all me. So
yeah, I hear you.
Hello, welcome to the show. We're glad you're here. If anybody in the chat has a question, hop in here and ask. Because we're fair game.
If I don't know the answer, I'll make it up.
There you go. Hey, what is it? Sailing until you succeed?
Take it until you make it. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah.
ABC, audition, bullshit, close. That's the truth in a lot of things.
That's the secret to it. Yeah, it's confidence goes a long way.
Yeah, I do the whole smile and nod. That's my thing. Smile and nod.
Yeah, as a paramedic, if I'm doing that, you're pissing me off. So that's the only thing Dad ever taught me. Audition, bullshit, close.
Audition, bullshit, close. Yeah, nice.
They're young enough threats.
ABC.
Yeah, and it worked out in paramedic school. Airway, breathing, circulation. So I never forgot.
Lovely.
It solve a lot of problems. Always be closing. It seems like every discipline has an ABC in it somewhere. Yeah.
That's true. Well, in yours, you build a lot of worlds, so you have to do that.
Yeah, that's always fun. I enjoy the world building part, and sometimes I always find in my first draft I get carried away with creating new names and new acronyms, and I have to like scale it right back, otherwise it would be indecipherable. But I like the creating new worlds and just imagining. Maybe that's why I write science fiction, because half of it's just the joy of creating creating something new.
How do you come up with the names?
Yeah, you know what? I have a bunch of different ways. So with this story, so I had two very well. Actually, I had several distinct cultures in the story, right? And so I had different naming systems for each of them. So, for example, for the underclass, that's kind of the ones that are doing the rebelling. I used ancient Mesopotamian names, like Ashme is an ancient Mesopotamian name, and her brother is Ganzer, right? So I just, you search the internet, and I just find like a list of names, ancient Mesopotamian names, right? The other culture, the overclass culture that's being rebelled against. I used ancient French names, so not modern day French names, but like old time, like middle age French names. And then what I used for the other one, I can't remember what I used. So with this story, what I did is I looked at just sort of different historical cultures, and I'm like, what are the names in these historical cultures? Because they're familiar, but they're not that familiar. Like you can tell Ashme is a name, but it's you don't probably know that many, right? So that's kind of what I did with this story. With the first novel that I wrote, the culture had existed for several thousand years. So my first novel was called Deutero, which means second Earth. And so the history of that particular novel was that it was a planet that was being coliformed by Earth thousands of years ago, and then mysteriously contact with Earth was lost, and they were kind of left on their own to drift. And so what I did there was like anything that's like from the origins is either English or Mandarin. And so all the names, they name cities after the founders, and they got names that are English or Mandarin, and the names of geographical features are English or Mandarin. But then anything that was kind of created new, like after the culture had been on its own, I used Esperanto. For those of you who don't know, that's an artificial language. It was created in like 1921 at the end of World War I. Some guy like, hey, we need a common language that everybody can understand, and he created this language, Esperanto. And so the names are Esperanto names, and so like Credo and people like that as Esperanta. So they kind of have these Esperanto kind of sounds a little bit Italian, a little bit Spanish, a little bit, but it's like it's not quite those things. So it has this cool feel to it. So that's what I did with that story. So I kind of have like a little gimmick to myself whenever I make names.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah,
I'm always curious to see how people come up with their names. It's like if you put letters on a dice, maybe roll it and see what comes up. Or
no. So sometimes I say I go down the rabbit hole with that first book, Deutero. Like each of their names represented, and so again, this is like a deep cut. Like nobody except the author would know this, but like each of their names represented sort of the thematic position they held in the story. So the main character, his name was Credo, which means belief. His foil, or like the person that he kind of had tension with, her name was Esperanta, which means wisdom. So he was like sort of this old school, like, we got to fall back on tradition. So, in that story, Deutero, their colony is collapsing and they don't understand why. Something's happening with the natural flora and fauna and their farmlands, and they don't understand why. And so Credo, let's say it's belief. He's like, he falls back on tradition. This, like, we just got to do what we've done, what's worked in the past, and just double down on it. With Esperanta, I say her name is wisdom. She's like, no, we got to like do away with the past. We got to experiment and try something new, right? So that's kind of the tension that we have there, right? So I kind of gave them names, and again, unless you speak Esperanto, you have no idea what those names mean, but that's what they mean. And I kind of picked those names because that's kind of there's like a little symbolism in it, for me at least, and whoever speaks Esperanto.
Do you do the same symbolism with your titles?
Not sometimes, but not. Yeah, yes-ish. Not always that thematic. So my first novel was Dua Terra, which is Esperanto for Second Earth. That's just what that meant. Ashme's song. So Ashme is the main character. And music does have a thematic element in that story. So her brother has special needs. So he's got, you know, mental handicaps and stuff like that. However, and so this is a real, like, it's a real disease. It's a real genetic condition that this guy has here. But he's like a musical savant. And so I say this is a real disease. It's modeled after a real disease. So, you know, they have these some physical, but mostly sort of cognitive handicaps, but they're just like they just pick up music. They have like perfect tune, pitch perfect, and stuff like that. And so he's this very musical guy, but he has trouble understanding the world. And, you know, as the story goes on, so he's, you know, as I say, he's very musical. He does singing. Music holds a real special place in his life. As the, you know, I don't want to, like, no spoilers, but as the story goes on, there are certain like lessons, like there's certain things he doesn't understand, but through music, he sort of learns certain life lessons, I guess. Right. And so at the start, when you read the title Ashme's song, you're like, that sounds like sounds like something an author would come up with. Once you realize that, okay, her brother's like really musical, like, okay, you're like, okay, maybe I see a layer of meaning behind Ashme's song. And then I think by the end of the book, when you see the lessons that he's learned and what music means to him at the end, I think there's more depth that you can sort of get in the title, if you want to. For those who are interested in that kind of thing, though, there's some little Easter eggs that you can unpack if you're so minded. Yeah.
How did you find out about this malaise, or whatever you
about that disease? So again, it was trying to play against type, or play against tropes. I was trying to play against tropes. So typically, when you have a dependent family member in most stories and most movies, right? Especially if the main character is a woman. The dependent family member is like a kid, like they got a kid and like, oh, I got this, you know, baggage that screams and cries and I got to keep my kid alive. Right. And I've you know, that's been done to death. So I didn't want to have the family member as a dependent. So it's her brother and it's her twin brother. They're fraternal twins. But he has this genetic defect. So, okay, he's got this cognitive, so he has special needs. And so, okay, I need to choose and I need to research special needs. Now, when you're writing a story, so real life just rolls the dice and, you know, you take what you get in real life. But when you're writing a story, you need to make choices that allow you to tell the story. So he needs to be a dependent, but not so dependent that like he's, you know, wheelchair bound, like, you know, he's wheelchair bound. Like he needs to be able to, you know, for me to write the story and for the story to work, he still needs to be able to, he needs to have some functionality. Like he's not a vegetable, but he has some functionality, but he's not able. So that kind of narrows the spectrum of things that he could have. Again, the common trope in just today's culture is like, oh, he's going to have autism and stuff like that, or something like that, right? And I'm like, okay, well, that's been done to death, and I don't want to go on that, you know, retread that ground. So I want to find something different, and then it's just a bunch of research. I always think that I always feel like all authors must be on watch lists based on their Google search.
I was just gonna say, I wonder what that Google search looked like.
Yeah, right. So it's like, what is this guy? Like the NSA is like, what is this guy into?
Oh, he's okay.
Yeah. But at any rate, it's just sort of it's just a bunch of it's research until you kind of found a thing that, yeah, this you know, these people or people with this condition are dependent, but they're still have enough functionality for me to be able to tell the story that I want to tell. Yeah, that's how that decision got. That's how that happened. So it's short answer. It's the needs of the story and what fits the needs of the story, and then just research until you find it.
How much AI is incorporated into your story, but how much AI do you use?
Yeah. So there. Oh, cool. All right. So there's a couple of things. One is in the history of this world. So at the present moment in the story, the cultures, the societies have this nervous relation with AI, and they throttle AI. So you can have AI, but they put governors on it so that it doesn't hit singularity and become these godlike intelligences. Because in the past, they had AI that hit singularity and became these godlike intelligence, and it sort of ran. And so this was a long time in the history of the world, but it kind of ran roughshod all over the world. Did all these weird things, like totally inexplicable. So for example, just one day, 1,000 years ago, one day, these strange structures appeared in cities all over the world, and they're just these big, long oblongs. They're like a micrometer thin, but whatever, a skyscraper height. They just float there. Nobody knows why they're there. They just made them one day, and then one day, all these godlike AI just left. But when they left, they altered the DNA of certain individuals, and the main character happens to be one of the people that has this genetic modification that allows them to control technology at a distance. So that's her special gift. And so that's kind of where AI fits. So in the ancient history, these AI hit this godlike singularity. They did these things were inexplicable. It was super dangerous. They wipe out cities, and the way that we wipe out anthills. They left this legacy of these certain people, not a lot of them, but a certain group of people that can control technology just sort of with their mind at a distance. And so they're scared of it now. And so they kind of throttle AI. And so now there's still AI, but they're kind of held back and throttled. And so the main character created her own AI, which kind of, hangs around, talks in her head. She can get to help out, but it's kind of throttled from hitting that singularity and, becoming godlike. So that's how I handled AI in this story. That's kind of the role or some of the roles it plays in this story.
Have you ever considered writing outside of sci-fi fantasy genres?
Yeah, you know what? Yes. And I'm currently writing did you say sci-fi fantasy? No. Okay. Yeah. So I was like, out of sci-fi, the current book I'm writing is probably more fantasy than sci-fi. I'm probably writing a fantasy novel now. That's what I'm working on. Outside of sci-fi fantasy, I've never been called to write, I've never had the call to write outside of sci-fi fantasy. How's that for an answer? Is that a vague answer? I've never been.
Do you pull from other genres into your sci-fi fantasies?
Yeah, I do. I'm a fan of horror. I love horror. So there's always, it's not unusual for there to be some creepy elements going on. The story that I'm writing now has a lot of Lovecraftian elements kind of woven into it. So yeah, I'd say a lot of my stories often will pull from horror. Yeah, and what else? And in terms of my science fiction, it's not necessarily like I don't write hard sci-fi. Like I try to make sure that things are grounded in science, but I don't go overboard in the like hard sci-fi. And so sometimes it might you might argue like being able to control computers with your mind. You might argue like that might be a little bit sci-fi fantasy. So I don't necessarily color within lines. Yeah, when I'm ready.
That's no fun to color in lines.
No, all over the place. Yeah.
That's not how art's made.
You don't make art by coloring in the lines. No.
Well, a lot of the influences and stuff you have, and this is, I warned you in your email, the question that I always ask everybody, and I find that it's so fascinating with authors. They always have some little something hidden. It's a paranormal story. They may have seen a ghost, Bigfoot, whatever it may be. Have you ever had something?
Mm-hmm. Yep, you did warn me, and I do. I have two. I've got two. I've got two stories I could share. So the first. So should I start? I'll let's do this chronologically. When I was 1,000 years ago, when I was a child, when I was young. So yeah, when I was a kid, I used to do competitive swimming, and you'd get on a bus and you'd have to drive between towns to go to swim meets and stuff like that. And I remember we're on the bus. And it was like late evening, and this was in southern Alberta. We're going from like one small town back to Calgary or something like that. I can't remember where we were, but we're on the bus, driving, and it's getting to be late evening. And I remember everybody starts freaking out because they're like looking out. They're looking at everybody on one side of the bus starts like, "What the hell is that?" Everybody's freaking out. Then everybody kind of looks over, and of course I look over. What the hell is going on over there? And I don't know to this day. Don't know what it was. Nobody else knew what it was. But in the sky on the horizon, there's this large, it's a large bright light, and it was not the sun, but it was this large sort of I don't know, sort of egg shaped or kind of oval shaped thing in the sky that was just there, kind of going along. And everybody on the bus saw it. We're all freaking out. Nobody knew what it was. Then eventually it disappeared. And, we're kids. And so we get back to whatever, teasing each other and calling each other names and doing whatever kids do. But that was a weird thing. And like now that I'm an old man, I'm like, that's a weird thing. Like probably should have thought a little bit about, like, at that time, what the hell was that? Anyway, so that's one story. So a weird thing in the sky. Second story is I was older. So I would have been, probably would have been high school, maybe university, high school or maybe university or something like that. And at any rate, there's a bunch of us at a party. The parents aren't home and stuff like that, as kids are prone to do. And all of a sudden, this one girl is like, "Hey, let's do a Ouija board." But we didn't have a Ouija board. So again, we've all seen horror stories. We know where this goes, right? But again, we didn't have a Ouija board. But she's like, "You know what? I know how to do this. We don't need a Ouija board. We can just do it sort of on the table here. We'll just sort of lay hands. Like we can kind of like lay hands, have one hand on the bottom and lay hands on top of each other. This is yes, this is no. We can ask questions and stuff like that, right?" And so, of course, we all do this. And, she calls the spirits. We all sit around and, sort of this show about getting it going and stuff like that and asking questions. And then all of a sudden, like hands. So my hand initially was kind of like at the top or in the middle or something like that. And, ask questions and the hands start to move and people start freaking out. But of course, it's like, are you moving your hand and stuff like that? So everybody kind of wants to try to be on the bottom and then they freak out. And eventually it was like, I want to try to be on the bottom. Like, are you actually doing this? Is this for real or not? And so my hand was on the bottom and they start to ask questions and my hand moved. And the sense, like, it felt like, so if this is my hand, it felt like there is something like a finger on my palm that was just kind of like guiding it over the table and moving it to yes or moving it to no. And I was done with the Ouija board after that. And I was like, yep, thanks. Now I know. Don't need to tempt fate. So those are my two weird true stories, two weird stories that I do not have answers for.
No, that's good. I've never heard anybody using. I've heard it's involuntary reflexes and stuff, but I've never heard anybody doing it like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. She's like, we don't need a board. You can just use your hand. And I swear, like that's like if you put your hand like that, that's exactly what it felt like, just like a finger on the palm, just sort of moving it, and then everybody else's hand was like stacked on top. So there you go.
That could creep you out, or were you okay with it?
I was like, okay, yeah. I was like, okay. I was. I don't know what I was expecting, but yeah, I'm good now. I think I'm done playing Ouija board for the night.
Bought the T-shirt, done.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah. So there you go. Nowadays, so they're not freaky stories, but there was when I first moved to Vancouver, I worked in this office alone, and this was the early days of the internet. And so, like, what do I do while I'm eating my lunch by myself? Like, they always had like real life ghost stories. You could find these things written on the internet. They're supposedly real life ghosts. So I always read those while I eat, and then I'd be like terrified in my office for the rest of the afternoon. I'm like,
All the
why
lights
did I
on.
do this? Like, yeah, thunder rolls, the lights go out, and I'm like, God damn it. So anyway.
Oh, that's funny. Brad, we don't want to keep you all night because we got you on here late. But I do want everybody, and especially remember our audience in Australia, if they want to get in touch with you, whether it's they want to tell you about your book, get an autographed book, how do they find you? And then how do they buy your stuff?
Yeah, sure. So the simple answer to both those questions are if you go to the website, my website, bradanderson2000.com. Apparently there's 2,000 of us. bradanderson2000.com. That's my website. Talks about all my books. That also has links to buying. You can use those links to buy the books through the website. If you don't want to go to the website, you can find my books on like Amazon, Barnes and Noble, like wherever you buy books. Wherever you buy books, you can find these books, hard copy or electronic copy. Ashme's song. So I got this guy here, Ashme's song. My first book is Duatero, Duatero. They're both fun books. I enjoyed writing them. People enjoy reading them. They're both fun books. So there you go. bradanderson2000.com. Find me there.
Is it going to be 16 years before you write another one?
I know. Man, every once in a while I hear these authors that are like, oh, I can write a novel a month. I'm like, oh, you son of a... It's me like,
got no life, no kids, no obligations.
How do you... Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's my problem. I'm like, oh, I have a job. But yeah, at any rate, yeah, it won't be 16 years, but usually takes me years to write a book. So I'm almost finished a draft of my next book. So hopefully in the next couple of years, I'll have another book out.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like your answer. You missed your bit there with stand-up. So you could be a late night talk show host. There you go.
Well, next life. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. We're too old to change ways now. Brad, thank you for coming on. It was great. And if I'm still alive when you get your second book out, I'll be hitting 60 in about 5 years. So be careful.
I'll get it up before then. Thank you very much for having me. It's fun talking to you guys. Nice to see somebody so close to my old stomping grounds. And I used to drive through Airdrie on my way to Edmonton and Calgary. Yeah, that's awesome.
Cool. Yeah, we've enjoyed it, and it went by quick. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right, had fun as well. Good night, everyone. Be safe. Have fun.
All right.
Stay warm.
Yes, stay warm. I'm in the South. It's going to get warm soon. So. Thank you, Brad. Have a great evening.
Cheers. See you guys.
Bye-bye. Oh, that was great. Were we hard on you? Was it rough?
Nope.
Oh, good. I
enjoyed the lights flicker here every now and then. I was worried about the power going out because
I was wondering about that. Yeah. Okay. Well, so you are also an author. I want to make sure you tell everybody about your stuff and how they can get your stuff.
Yeah, best place to check it out is my website, www.jmshawauthor.com. Links to my social media, my Facebook, my Instagram, my email, descriptions of my books, and links to them online are all there.
She will answer you. She will answer you. She answered me. So
yeah.
Thank you for coming on. It was a blast. I'm glad you did this. We're gonna have to have you on more often. So.
Oh, I'd love to.
Yeah. Did you have fun, or we weren't?
Oh, yes.
Okay. All right. I just make sure you're not just saying that you'll block me when we.
No, I had fun.
You're like, yeah, no, I'm not talking to that guy anymore. We're done. Well, do try and stay warm up there. We're gonna be warm next week. I keep.
Oh yeah. It's December. It's winter. It's expected, right?
There you go. I will put your info in the show notes too. Just remind me because I'm old. I've got Alzheimer's. So anybody that's interested, I will be back live on Dare Talk Radio, Radio X FM at 2:00 Eastern. I don't know what time that is there, but we will have the Daily Gazette, and then we will be back next week where we have more authors, and perhaps we'll find JM into coming back. So, there you go. Everybody have a great night. We will see you soon.